another article from the New York Times, okay? This was published on June 5th. And you can see here, it's very interesting, honestly, it's very interesting what they say about Iran. So they say that, of course, Biden could have deals with Venezuela and Iran to fix the oil prices, right? Of course, any deals with either Venezuela or Iran could, quote, themselves become political liabilities for Biden, because most Republicans, and even some Democrats, oppose compromises with the leaders of those countries. But they don't oppose compromises with the Saudis, right? Butchering a Washington Post journalist, chopping him up, that's okay. 9/11, that's okay. Exporting Wahhabism, that's okay. Destroying Syria, that's okay. No women's rights, no freedom of the press, no democracy, that's okay. But where do they draw the line? At Iran and Venezuela. Like, what kind of a standard is that? Do you even have one? Do you even have one? And the fact that they admit in the paper that actually it's most Republicans and Democrats who would be opposed to it. So they're basically telling you in other terms that the politicians in Washington, D.C., in both parties, are fine with Saudi Arabia. But Iran and Venezuela, that's where we draw the line. Can't do that. Sorry. Best I can do is chopping up journalists. I mean, that tells you a lot about their moral standard and how they're just simply hypocrites, right? I mean, to be fair, I shouldn't really be giving him credit for anything. But the phrase in English is to his credit. The Biden administration has gone to Venezuela. They sent a delegation, right, to try and ease sanctions a bit, which basically means doing nothing. And then when it comes to Iran, they've tried to revive the nuclear deal. Now, does Biden get any credit for that? I don't think so, man. Stalling for over a year with negotiations, you try going without food and medicine for a week, a month, and see how you feel. You try going without fuel for a week and see how you feel, never mind a year. And so far, there are no results, man. There are no results. It's only now that the Biden administration is showing more will to get back in the Iran deal, which means lifting sanctions, and therefore you would have Iranian oil on the market. And with Venezuela, they haven't lifted sanctions. They haven't done anything. They're only allowing Venezuela to have talks with Chevron and send some boats to Europe. That's not lifting. You have to look at it this way, man. For us, the bar should not be, can Venezuela sell oil in the United States? No. The bar should be, are people in Venezuela not being starved by U.S. sanctions? That's the bar, okay? I mean, I can't believe I have to, spell this out like the bare minimum. Can people live? What kind of a bar is that? This is where we're at. This is the discussion that we're in. And so my point is that Joe Biden is going to Saudi Arabia to get oil prices down because they are so bad. Again, in the US, they say gas prices because they're so bad. The prices are too high, $6 a gallon, $7 a gallon. And so Biden is going all the way to Saudi Arabia. Well, I mean, he has to. They wouldn't pick up his call. He has to go all the way to Saudi Arabia to get them to help bring oil prices down. But right next door in Yemen is not just being bombed and starved. There's a fuel blockade. You understand? There's a siege on Yemen, on fuel specifically. So if you try to bring a fuel ship into Hodeidah port, which is the biggest port in Yemen, the Saudi coalition is going to come and seize your ship. And they're going to keep you in detention for a year on average, almost a year on average. Okay? So I put out a report on that, on this fuel siege specifically. Do you know how much people are paying in Yemen? They're paying $9 a gallon, $9.50 a gallon. You think Biden is going to tell the Saudis, hey, you guys need to lift the siege? Ha! In your wildest dreams. In your wildest dreams. And I think this shows again how sick this whole thing is, because those ships, man, I don't care what the Saudis say, security, no. It's lichen, and those ships have UN clearance. They've been given a certificate. You can see in the New York Times article, they even admit the Biden administration recently renewed a license that partly exempts Chevron from U.S. sanctions aimed at crippling the oil industry in Venezuela. Yeah. That's what it is. So if Trump did that, and Biden is keeping that, what does that tell you? Right? And then they say that Eni and Repsol could begin shipping a small amount of oil from Venezuela to Europe. Okay? But they haven't announced it publicly. And they say Venezuela, which was once a major exporter to the US, has the world's largest petroleum reserves. But its oil industry has been so crippled that it could take months or even years for the country to substantially increase exports. Okay? So even if Biden lifted sanctions, which he would never do because you don't want to upset Democrats and Republicans, right? That's the red line. Oh, heaven forbid. Even then it wouldn't work because they destroyed Venezuela. This is why, even though Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil, Iran is sending it fuel from the other side of the planet on ships, right? Because Venezuela can't refine the oil that it has. You can't even export it. Never mind refine it. Do you understand? Like, that's how dire the situation is. And then you know what the Americans do? And of course their European allies help them. They steal those ships. They seize them and steal the oil and sell the oil like pirates. You know, you board a ship, you take the cargo, you sell it, and you make money from your thieving. That's what the U.S. is doing to make sure that people in Venezuela have nothing, right? And then they tell you, oh, but Maduro, man, what you're doing doesn't even come close to what Maduro has done or whatever you're accusing him of. It's not even close.